everyone. Welcome back to Decoding Dragons, where we break down all things House the Dragon. We're your hosts, Liza and Michelle, spilling the royal tea, and Ayana has come back to join us for our finale party this week. Today we also have an extra special guest. Elizabeth Sagan is joining us to break down the fire for this episode. Elizabeth is extremely well known in the bookstagram community and is a fellow A Song of Ice and Fire fan and Fire and Blood reader as well. Elizabeth, we are so happy to have you join us today.
Thank you so much for having me. I can't wait to talk about the last episode and about the whole season.
Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you've thought of House the Dragon so far this season?
I love the show. Many people ask this question of whether Game of Thrones is better than House of the Dragon or the other way around, and I think both of them stand on their own, and both of them are great in their own way. And I think House of the Dragon is its own thing with its own history and its own characters that you learn to love in a different way than you love the Game of Thrones characters.
Right, I think it definitely does stand on its own feet, and it while it is so similar to Game of Thrones, it also has a very different feel. So we are so excited to dive into what this finale was like. So we are going to be talking about what happened in House of the Dragon season 1, episode 10, The Black Queen, and we are breaking down the lore for each episode. So there are going to be some spoilers in the later half of the episode, but we do try to save our book spoilers for the Fire and Dragon Dream sections, just so everybody who's watching it is aware. What did everybody think about the finale episode? I'm gonna keep my tea.
Yo, okay. So everybody knows I kind of hated on episode 7. Episode 8 was okay. This episode brought me right back in. Man, this was such a good episode. Not only did it end, like, shockingly, obviously it's Game of Thrones, but everything about it was Game of Thrones. There was some Dany callbacks, there was some Jon Snow callbacks, there was music callbacks, like, everything about the episode, good lord, everything about the episode was just everything I love about Game of Thrones. I loved this episode.
Yeah, I agree with you, Michelle. I loved it. I think it ended in the perfect way. Um, there are a lot of little things throughout the episode that I loved. Aemon's eye was one of them. The fight between the dragons, loved it.
I couldn't agree with all of you more, and I know I just sound like I'm rubber stamping everything that everybody said, but truly it was a finale. I am gonna slightly disagree on one thing. Okay, I'm a TV show only watcher, right? So I'm comparing this to Game of Thrones season 1, all right? When I tell you, and this is a spoiler, this is a spoiler. This is a spoiler. Okay, cool. So this one, no one can come for me in the comments. When Ned Stark's head flew off, I genuinely was okay. All right, I know that's not a word. I don't care. I was not okay. When baby Luke got, I was like, now I'm angry. See, I was ready for the death, but I wasn't ready for the cutest, the cuddliest, the most adorable death to happen so quickly and so fast. It threw me for a loop. But so I will say that I was still more shocked from the very first show season 1 finale, mouthful, but this one still is going to be a banger. I think all I'm most excited for is in season 2, because that's where the nitty gritty is going to happen. But it was still absolutely fantastic. I was throwing every piece of article of clothing I could find. I threw socks, I threw mail, I threw food. I was mad. I did not want this to happen. So I definitely am here for the spoilers, because I do only watch a show. I'm not going to read the books, just because, why should I when I've got Decoding Dragons, right? Duh, shameless plug. But yeah, so I kind of had an idea as to what was going to happen, but again, seeing it on screen still hurt like hell. I was like, no, baby Luke, no.
I know. And Elizabeth brought up Aemon's sapphire eye, and so I was definitely here for the sapphire eye reveal. It looks so much cooler in real life than I pictured it looking in the books. And some of Boros Baratheon's lines were like right out of the book too, like the one where he's talking about he's not he can't just be called up whenever Rhaenyra needs him. That was like almost word for word from Fire and Blood. So overall, I thought this was a fantastic finale. It broke my heart, and I am not ready to have to wait like a year and a half or 2 years to get the next season. I am deeply missing the 1 year gap between original Game of Thrones, because I think I've heard circulating the internet it's going to be a little bit longer of a gap this time because of maybe filming schedules. So my heart is broken, and it's going to take a long time to heal, but we have a long time to wait until season 2.
Can we get into that sapphire eye real quick? So I don't really, obviously I didn't read Fire and Blood. Why did they make it look like a night, like the Night King eye or something? I don't know.
It's foreshadowing. Aemon comes back as the actual true Night King. I'm kidding. I have no.
My question is, we all agree that that sapphire eye looks cool as super cool, all right? It looks so good. My question is, why does Aemon hide it? Because if I had that sapphire eye, I would definitely not hide it.
If I had a sapphire eye, I would be walking around with that everywhere. I'd be like, look at how badass I look. Everyone be jealous, right? I would not hide it. Like it's very glittery.
Okay, here, audience prompt, and prompt for all of you. Do you think he looks more badass with the eye patch or with the blank sapphire eye?
Eye patch. Come on.
Blank sapphire eye for me.
Okay, I'm gonna be honest with you. Exactly, Elizabeth. I'm gonna have to agree with you, but also push for the eye patch, because if somebody's walking up to me with an attitude like that and your eyeball is glistening, I'm gonna tell you to go somewhere and sell it. You better come to me with the eye patch, because then I'll actually be intimidated. Because everybody knows, for all of the little, for my little, I'm gonna make a little Aemon, we love to hate him group, because we love to hate him, but we know that you're basically a discount Daemon. No shade to the Greens. But let's just be honest, okay? They needed a sassy attitude guy. And
He's the
I'm gonna
wish.com Daemon.
Exactly, yeah. Like, I'm gonna need him to keep the eye patch on. It's gorgeous, but I'm not gonna take you seriously. I'm gonna be like, shine bright like a diamond.
As a person who really likes pirates in fiction, like I'm here for the eye patch just because like I'm here for the pirate vibe a little bit. So I'm gonna have to go for the eye patch. But the sapphire eye is killer, and it's also definitely like book canon, and we were all waiting for it. So it was a badass reveal. He's like, yeah, I'm here now, bitches. But it's just, I'm not here for the fact that you held on to this for this many years and you haven't tried to squash this some other way, you know? But we are going to talk about Aemon versus Lucerys in our blood section, so let's go ahead and jump into that because I have a couple questions for you guys. Okay, so Ayana and Michelle, what did you think about Rhaenyra's coronation on Dragonstone?
Michelle, you go first.
Ma'am, what an anticlimactic coronation. What is happening? I'm so disappointed. Okay, I can't say I'm disappointed. It was a lovely scene because it was the most down Rhaenyra could be, brought back up by getting her father's crown. But if we compare coronations, the fuck? So Aegon gets this massive celebration in the dragon pit, and then Rhaenyra gets crowned as she's mourning the loss of her child. I was not here for that.
I liked Rhaenyra's coronation more because it was more emotional and closer to the reader, sort of. To those who are watching, more like you felt that those people in front of her were like a family. Whereas with Aegon, those in front of Aegon were his subjects. And it was a fake. That coronation, Aegon's coronation, was a fake. But Rhaenyra's was like a family, like people choosing to follow her because they wanted to, not because they were told to follow her, like it was in Aegon's case. So of course it wasn't that um, so impressive, but I felt it was closer to like more heartfelt.
I actually, yeah, like I feel I feel Michelle. I understand Elizabeth. I'm going to do my best to maybe try to bridge it together, right? So when you watched Aegon's coronation, you knew, even from his own mouth, he didn't want it. He wasn't. I don't want it. He wasn't ready. He did not deserve it, and everything about it felt artificial, right? Rhaenyra, her coronation was technically, right, by legitimacy from her father, what was supposed to happen, but everything surrounding it made it horrible, right? And they really should have retitled this episode and called it the callback episode, because so many things were happening, right? Like, we're getting the flashes of Rhaenyra's dragon, along with her, unfortunately, graphic content warning, just FYI, like her losing her baby during childbirth, while she also just lost her father. Like, there's so much loss on the black team, and there's so many things that the green team, right, out of their greed, out of their desire to keep the realm together, they're the ones kind of feeding this machine of hatred and lies and wanting to uphold duty under any cost. But Rhaenyra's side, kind of like Elizabeth was saying, it was more heartfelt. There was a faithfulness. There was a look. We understand what happened. And yes, nobody on Team Black is denying the steps that Rhaenyra took that led her there. But what we're saying is that regardless of how she got there, she's there. And it's up to her to maintain what her father passed down. And I feel like everything that was happening to her during her coronation was just loss after loss after loss after loss, until finally she's just gonna, of course, at the end, we're gonna get that Targaryen rage, like Liza said. So I thought that the coronation was beautiful in an extremely sad way, and I still don't like Aegon II. He can kick it. That's just my opinion. But it's okay though. It's okay though. But that's why, like, that's why shows like this are so good, because everyone's gonna have a different feeling, and no one's wrong, right? Like, obviously, yes, like, she didn't get fireworks and dragon fire and swords swinging around. She lost her baby and got a crown, and she lost her father within the same 48 hours. She's not feeling the ascension like she's supposed to, and we as an audience are supposed to feel like she didn't deserve that. So Michelle is still right, Elizabeth is still right.
Well, what I kind of appreciate is that the writers of this show are trying, I feel like, are trying to bridge the gap between the very contradictory season 8 of Game of Thrones, where Daenerys had such a turn really quickly because she had so much loss really fast. And we're kind of seeing that happen with Rhaenyra. She's having loss after loss after loss, and then eventually she just turns around and bitch snaps and let's go. So I feel like that was kind of a callback to kind of bridge that gap for the original series, and I appreciated that.
I agree with Elizabeth. I really like the coronation. It felt so much more down to earth than Aegon's did. Like, it felt genuine and realistic. And I got a huge callback to when Dany walks out of the fire and everyone, like Jorah and her blood riders, swear fealty to her. When the Kingsguard, I do not remember if it's Eric with an E or Eric with an A, but he brings her the crown, and I got major, like, blood rider vibes from that kind of scenario. And you're right, like, Rhaenyra is the queen they chose. Like, the people in front of her chose her. Even if the realm did not, they did. And I still love the fact that Daemon puts the crown on her head, because, like I was saying, I don't think he's ever wanted the crown, but I think it was so important for him to have the crown that he put on Viserys' head a few episodes ago and putting it on Rhaenyra's head now. So I thought that was fantastic. And speaking of all the loss she endured, we do have to talk about Aemon versus Lucerys. So just get into it. Live your best life. Tell us how you feel.
All right, so obviously spoilers for the end of this episode. I knew, like, we'll get into it in the fire section. So I did know how Luke died. I was not ready for it. I was still shocked with how it happened, mainly because you're going through a lot of conflicting thoughts of, oh, wait a minute, it doesn't look like the dragons are listening to their riders, right? So we think that they can control them. Obviously they can't. And then fucking Vhagar just comes out of nowhere, and so there's conflicting thoughts of, oh wait, they can't control their dragons, oh no, Luke is completely ill-equipped against Vhagar, and then you have Aemon, who actually looks like he's regretting what happened. And so there's just so many things happening right there.
I think it was a perfect example of fuck around and find out. because it was obviously a mistake. Aemon didn't want to kill Luke, but he rode on Vhagar, who is a battle dragon, who is an older dragon and a bigger dragon, and he made it so that Vhagar thought it was a hunt, and then he wanted to stop Vhagar from hunting, especially after Luke's dragon attacked with fire. So what else was Aemon expecting to happen?
Yeah, it's kind of like what are you expecting? I was very disappointed in Uncle Aemond, okay? You're nothing like Uncle Damon and we're disappointed in you. Like what did you think was going to happen? You are flying. Not just a creature and this is this is again my high fantasy nerdy side coming out. This is why I love so many different high fantasies, because everybody respects dragons no matter what happens, right? Everybody has a high affinity for dragons. And what I enjoy and what I'm very entertained with in Game of Thrones is how these dragons are attached to these people like the Targaryens, but they are not of these people, right? Like they are not going to just listen to you and do what you say do. At the end of the day, they are hunters, they are animals, they are predators. And if you put them in a form of, or if you are engaging them in some form of an attack, they are going to do that, right? And so, people can probably go off, on social media and in the comments about whose fault is it? Was it Aemon's for chasing Luke, or was it Luke's dragon for breathing fire? I'm like, it's Aemon. All you had to do was just stay there. You already had his sworn, his promise to protect Aegon. You already had the betrothal. Now you just mad because you ended up with a cool looking eye. Like, make it make sense. So no, I was very disappointed in his actions. I was very very sad to see baby Luke go. I was like, no, baby Luke, no. Like that needs to just be like, if you put in the thumbnail, Liza, just be like, no, baby Luke. That's all I'm saying the whole time. But yeah, it was infuriating. And granted, yes, there was a little bit of regret in him, but everybody knows what he's gonna do to his mommy dearest. So see what had happened was like there was this fight, and I kind of didn't start it. All right, it wasn't me. I'm flying a mountain dragon, but I didn't do it. So he kind of dead because he hit me.
I do want to shout out cinematography though, because there were two shots of Vhagar that were just like, oh, you're gorgeous. So the one when Luke lands at Storm's End, and then Vhagar's just kind of in the background with her giant ass like frog neck, and then when Luke is leaving and Vhagar just comes over Arax. Arax, thank you. She just like flies over Arax, and like he's like the size of a wing, like not even like oh gosh, it was gorgeous.
Agreed. And I do agree with you guys. Aemon was playing with fire, all puns intended. Elizabeth made a good point. Vhagar has seen multiple battles. She knows what she's doing, and I think in Vhagar's head, she used to be Visenya's dragon, okay? Visenya wasn't no punk. And so I think Vhagar was like, you ain't about to blow fire at me and get away with it. That is not how this is about to go down, even if it was like an accident or whatever. Basically, like, all in all, I think Aemon was playing with fire, and it's not the first time a dragon hasn't listened to their rider, and I think he didn't have, in his arrogance, he didn't have enough respect for the creature under him that can make up its own mind about stuff. But so we are gonna go ahead and jump into our fire section and debate if this is a good stopping point for season 1. So let's go ahead and jump into that right now.
All right, so my first question for both of you, Elizabeth and Liza, what did you think about how they ended season 1? Meaning, like, is it a good stopping point to start season 2 with?
I think it's a perfect starting point because up until it ends with war and it will start with war. And up until that point, Rhaenyra was actually considering backing down and considering some peace terms. Because she was trying to protect the realm, because she had to respect Viserys's wishes, and as she said, I'm not here to be the queen over the ashes, just because I want to sit on the Iron Throne, which maybe I don't even want to do that, but Viserys said I'm his heir. Um, but after she loses her son, there is only one way forward. And I loved so much that final scene that I took a screenshot, and that final scene of her enraged, and you can see the decision in her eyes. It's my desktop wallpaper right now.
I totally agree. I think it was a fantastic stopping point because the whole episode had so many Daenerys callbacks, and especially that moment at the very end. I agree with what Elizabeth was saying. Like, this is the moment that Rhaenyra decides. Like, before then, she was trying to respect Viserys' wishes, but I think the weight of the prophecy combined with all of her recent losses and, like, the shedding of her son's blood, I think this is where she decides, like, this is her no turning back point. It was, like, vengeance against her brother to some degree for usurping her throne, but now it's blood for blood. I think that made everything much more real, and it made it so that she had to commit. She had to make a decision, and I think that was her absolute deciding point, and I was here for it. I am team Rhaenyra, get your vengeance, girl.
Liza, how dare you let me forget about Rhaenys and Corlys? Okay, I got feelings. I love that couple. You talk about blood. Michelle, you ain't asked me a question, but I'm throwing this out there. That blood needed to come back. Do you understand? Like, they are, get your words out, Ayana, get the words. They are OTP. Like, the way she's just sitting there, right? And of course, he's get the sass, like, let me talk to my woman, let her know, like, I'm alive and all that. She's like, no. Shame on you. I was alone. I was scared. I got locked up in a room. I was built like some princess. I am not Cinderella, okay? I am not Fiona in Shrek 1, beast moding people. I'm mad at you. Now give me your face. Let me wipe this sweat off your face.
I love
like
them together.
They are so perfect, and it's so nice to see the standard, right? And that beautiful, beautiful moment. And I hope that nobody else is talking about it, so they can only hear it here at Decoding Dragons. But that beautiful moment when when he finally was on his feet again, because he's been gone for a couple of episodes, and when he was basically talking to Rhaenyra, it was almost like, just for a split second, it was like your oldest family member checking on you, like, you going to school? You saved up some money, you got a car, like, what are you doing with your life? And she's just like, well, here's what's going on. Here's what's happening. Like, it was a beautiful moment, like the family. And for just a split second, it didn't matter who her children were. It didn't matter who was sitting on the throne. It was just an opportunity for a family member to educate and really teach and guide another set of family members. So Rhaenys is like, she's my girl. In another life, I was her. Like, truly, the two of them are so beautiful together, and I'm so happy that we got that Valyrian blood back, looking like a solid team again, because I was like, don't, yes, I'm going to say it. Don't kill the only brother we had for the whole thing. Like, we need him back, okay? Please, let's keep him.
Yeah, so to your point, I do appreciate that you can see the respect of the Valyrian blood, right? Like, that's what they share. That's what the entire beginning of the season was about. And so you can see that kind of respect. But I got two things. One, Rhaenys, my bitch. The entire episode, the shade on her face. Oh my gosh. Yeah. So every time when Daemon was like, we have Melees on our side, what? You have what?
She's like, she's like, I ain't doing nothing without my husband. What did I tell you? But keep my dragon's name out your mouth.
Every single scene she was in, at one point, I was so tickled by her shade. I was just kicking my legs like a little kid. I was like, oh, I'm here for this.
I also noticed that she didn't kneel at the coronation scene either. I don't know if anybody saw that, but Rhaenys is not the queen who knelt, you guys, okay? Also, I just love their relationship so much, and I love they decided to take part in Rhaenyra's side for the sake of their grandchildren. I love to boil character motivations down to the one thing they're doing it for, and I think that Rhaenys and Corlys were doing it for their grandchildren. And I love that so much. Like, they are OTP. I am here for it.
Yeah.
She didn't kneel, and then she didn't bow her head when she was first introduced, when Daemon was introducing her in the war room, which, by the way, I just thought of something else. The war table! Yo, it was like my favorite thing of the episode with the glow up with the war table. Oh, that was brilliant. It was so gorgeous. The second thing I was going to mention earlier, Liza, you mentioned a lot of Daenerys callbacks, which there were a ton, right? It was kind of emotional, same words in the same castle of the I don't want to rule over ash and bone, stuff like that. Yeah. So beautiful. But there was also a really quick Jon Snow callback moment in the moment that Ayana is talking about with Corlys and Rhaenys together when Corlys first wakes up. And Rhaenys is kind of explaining everything to Corlys, saying, Rhaenyra is actually keeping the realm together. She's calm, cool, and collected. And then it kind of transitions into the shot of Rhaenyra amongst the chaos and everything happening around her in the war room. And it was the music called back, and it was kind of a small callback to Jon Snow with how they did it. That was a detailed shot that you would really have to pay attention for. Because if you think about it, Jon Snow technically is a descendant. So his peace of mind, I guess, or his mannerisms would be very similar to what we're watching, and I thought that was a really cool callback.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And I also wanted to talk about the dragon that we got a chance to see Daemon approach as well. So we get to see Daemon approach Vermithor. So Vermithor is Jaehaerys Targaryen's dragon. We got to see Jaehaerys at the very beginning of season 1, House of the Dragon. So there's been theories circulating on the internet that maybe Daemon was going to claim Vermithor, but I don't think so. I think what's happening is he was going down there to see if Vermithor is still there. Because Vermithor has not had a rider since Jaehaerys passed, and he, as far as I know, he is the oldest living dragon and largest living dragon other than Vhagar. So having him on Team Rhaenyra is game changing. So we did get to see Daemon go down there, and like Michelle, what was it that you said earlier off screen? You said Daemon was wooing Vermithor with his song, I think.
Yeah, he was wooing him with his High Valyrian song.
Right. So I think that there was a chance that Vermithor might have known Daemon when Daemon was like an itty bitty baby. So because Daemon is Jaehaerys' grandson. So there's a chance the dragon might have like sniff, all right, I know you. I won't eat you today, but don't try me later. Right. So I think he was.
Don't make me get the cannibal.
He's my friend. I will call him. So, speaking of Daemon going down there and checking on Vermithor, I think he was doing that in preparations for the Dragon Seeds portion of the show, which brings me to a whole bunch of stuff like season 2 predictions that I really want to talk about in our Dragon Dreams. So let's go ahead and jump into that right now. All right, so season 2 predictions. Obviously, we're going to keep it vague because there's a lot of stuff they can do and decide on and change their mind on between now and when they film season 2. So one thing we do know for sure is that Jace is going to Winterfell and he's going to meet with Cregan Stark. I think they pronounced it Cregan in the show. So choose your pronunciation however you will, but he is going to Winterfell to meet with Cregan Stark. And there's something super cool about that because they make their pact that he'll come help the Targaryen cause through something called the Pact of Ice and Fire. And if I'm recalling everything properly, it's basically Jace is agreeing that I think Jace's firstborn daughter will marry Cregan's firstborn son, I believe. So while that does not necessarily happen in the Dance of the Dragons, we all know that Lyanna Stark marries Rhaegar Targaryen later on, and thus sort of completes the Pact of Ice and Fire because a Stark, it kind of switches around, but a Stark daughter marries a Targaryen son. So that's just a super cool, like, super 200-year later follow through. So we will see Jace going to Winterfell to meet with Cregan, and the dragon seeds are approaching. So Team Rhaenyra obviously knew that they had a bunch of dragons, but not a bunch of dragon riders. So they were trying to find people with enough Targaryen blood to claim and ride these dragons on their behalf. So, and one of the dragons that is claimed by a dragon seed is Vermithor, which I think is why he was like going down there to check and make sure that Vermithor was still there. So we will see the dragon seeds portion in season 2, and we're hoping that we will see Daemon Targaryen. So he's named Daemon the Daring, and we have not seen him in season 1, so this might come as a shock to some people. But Daemon is Viserys and Alicent's youngest son. They didn't have time to have him in season 1, but he is there, and I believe he's staying down in Old Town. If I'm wrong, correct me in the comments. But Daemon the Daring rides a dragon named Tessarion, and he plays a huge part in the Greens' battle for rulership. So I'm really hoping we're gonna see Darren in season 2 because he's a really important part of the story, and I don't see how they could feasibly leave him out. So as far as I know, we're gonna see Winterfell. We're gonna go back to House Stark, and I'm so excited. We're gonna see the Dragon Seeds, and we're going to hopefully see Darren the Daring, as far as I know. So what are you guys most excited to see in season 2?
I want to see the Greens lose. I'm so sorry. That's the childish person in me coming out. In reality, I want to see the Greens lose. No, but seriously, I want to see some loss on their end because, granted, I know now I sound like Aemon, an eye for an eye, but you owe us a son.
There will be some loss on their end.
That's all I needed. Thank you, Elizabeth. I'm happy now. Season 2, let's go. All green.
I'm looking forward to where Damon's character is going in the sense that everyone loves Damon, weirdly so, because we know he made some particular choices, especially in the beginning, killing his first wife, and so. And everyone likes to think that he's that kind of grumpy character who's soft only for Rhaenyra. And I think we saw the first change of that in this final episode when he strangled her, grabbed her by the throat. And I think we will see more of that in the second season. I also saw read some articles about the producer who actually wants to go in this direction with his character, and I think it will be super funny to watch the reaction of all the people who like to ship Rhaenyra and Daemon.
You make a really good point because everybody who's like Team Daemon, he is a morally great character, and I am here for some morally great characters, right? But I think that people who are like, they're like super Team Daemon for the show don't know what happens in Fire and Blood. And I think Rhaenyra knew about that side of him, but I don't think people are ready for what Daemon is about to get up to, and it may probably change some opinions about this character. So he still gets, in my opinion, I'm not going to say what it is. I'm going to be super vague, but whenever we get close to the end of House of the Dragon, this story that they're telling, in my opinion, he gets one of the most epic moments in the entire thing. But he's not a good character, if that like is vague enough to not be spoilers. He's epic, but he's not a good character.
I don't want anybody's reputation on this panel to be jeopardized. We all understand that nobody is good. And that is what makes House of the Dragon so powerful, is that you are rooting for, honestly, you really are just rooting for everyone to sit at a table and have a conversation and get over it. That's what you ultimately are rooting for. But at the end of the day, we recognize our own mishaps, our own mistakes. We recognize where we would fall short, and we can pretend to be goody goody two shoes if we want to, but in reality, would you really make any of the different decisions, right? Like, that may not be a prompt to answer in the comments, but that may be something to ask yourself, like, while you're thinking about, and when Damon's character changes, when all of these characters change or go through their moments, right? Are you, or like, one of my closest friends always talks about Optimus Prime, about were we so different? Like, before you go in there and start judging people, you recognize that they're bad, you recognize they make bad decisions, but what would you have done if all of the pressure of the entire realm was on your shoulders?
Well said, well said.
Yeah, you guys bring up a good point, and I have my notes from the episode. That I found it interesting that on the precipice of war, it kind of has Daemon in a tizzy, and I think there were a couple of reasons why. We haven't really seen him like that since he's been married to Rhaenyra, but I think he's struggling with having a ruler that he respects, which means he also has to kind of listen to her. So not only is he married to her, he's used to his brother being king, where he can just kind of run over whatever Viserys says, but now he wants to ensure that he respects Rhaenyra, but also it asserts his power that he doesn't really have anymore. And then he's like pushing her to go to war, and you can kind of see the internal struggle and conflict he's having with all of that.
Right. I think that he's on the road down some bad decisions, but I am very interested to, like Elizabeth says, to see what the internet is going to start thinking of Daemon pretty soon. That's a good point for sure.
I think the internet will be mad because the way in which his character will evolve will ruin their headcanon, will ruin their fantasies about his character.
Good, good. Let the thirst trap end. See him for who he truly is.
Yes.
I'm just kidding.
Yes, I totally agree. I think people get really thirsty over these characters and they forget that they are flawed characters in a flawed universe making flawed decisions, which is what makes the show something that we're all, here watching, because we get to choose who we want to side with. Because like I've said before, like there are no heroes in this show. They're just flawed people making flawed decisions, and you get to pick which flawed side you want to be on. So definitely let us know in the comments what you all are most excited to see in season 2, because as you can see, we have a lot coming our way. And Ayana, as always, thank you so much for returning to this episode. We are so happy to have you back. And Elizabeth, thank you for joining us for this one. Fellow Fire and Blood readers might be really interested in your other book recommendations. Where can everyone find you if they want more of your fantastic content?
Thank you for having me. You can find me on Instagram at Elizabeth_Sagan.
Yes, and she has such fantastic content, so definitely get on that and make sure that you follow ASAP so you do not miss out.
And I do want to be sure to shout out Ayana for covering for me last weekend. I was in no cell phone, no Wi-Fi area after getting married. So Ayana, thank you very much for filling in. It was a really great weekend for me. But everybody, we will be back next season to recap all the latest episodes of House of the Dragon, and you might catch us on here at CouchSoup in the meantime with more Song of Ice and Fire lore. So make sure to keep an eye out, hit the subscribe button and the bell so you get the notifications. Make sure you hit that like button. It really helps us out. Let us know in the comments what else you would like CouchSoup to dive into, and we will see you guys next time.